So welcome back. So let's get a few more questions answered in this video here. I'm going to go through some more, and it's been great so far. Really enjoyed it. I've had to cut them down into bite-sized chunks because I thought that I didn't realize there were going to be so many and so many great questions, which would take quite a lot of answering. So the first one I've got on this section is going to be from Euphoria Pictures. Now, Euphoria Pictures is run by Keith, one of my first channels that I subscribed to, and he subscribed to me, and we've had a lot of chat backwards and forwards. We've done a lot of things, Instagram video chats and all that type of thing. He's a great guy. He's also got a brilliant channel as well, so I'll leave a link down that below. If you haven't heard of it, get yourself across there. Wow, really love the drumming, John. Thanks very much. I really am impressed. You wouldn't be impressed if you were sat next to it and it was it was the live, because I have got a live drum kit. I've got an acoustic drum kit, and that's loud. My question will have to be, is there any chance you could give me your Dawn of the Dead box set? Because I'm sick of waiting for mine to come. Well, as much as I like you, Keith, and you're a good mate, I don't think even my wife couldn't get that off us. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your candor on trying to get that off me. But yeah, it's a no-go, and I do know because I've seen it. You've got yourself a new one anyway. So yeah, but in all seriousness, he says, my question would have to be, if you could replace the drummer of a band for one day, who would it be? Do you know what, Keith? This is the question that I ask myself all the time, especially when you go and see a live band and somebody you do hear sometimes, even on YouTube videos, where say Keith Moon was that palatic that somebody had to get out from the audience to drum the songs. So I thought sometimes when I go and see a band, and I always think, if the drummer can't do it, and they say, is there a drummer in the house that could drum to all our songs? I would be, on certain bands, I would put my hand up, even though I am very much a shrinking violet. I do not like to be in the spotlight. I would have to put the cymbals over my face. That's probably why I became a drummer, so I could be at the back and not be seen. I would love to do that. Sometimes, especially, I said, when I'm walking along in Newcastle and they've got the buskers there and they've got some drummers and they're drumming along, and I'm saying to my wife, I could do a better job than him. Not to be big-headed, but you could say, he's not doing that right, he's not doing that right. I would love to say, give a shot at them and then drum. Or I think you have these sort of, personally, you have these sort of fantasies if you're a bit, if you're walking about or wandering about and someone says, or you say to a drummer who's put the stuff down, and you're just like an average Joe walking down the street, Joe walking down the street, and you say, can I have a shot in your drums? And they'll say, oh, go on then, what an idiot. And you put out some, there's tricks you can do with the drums to make it sound much better than you are. If you throw some triplets in or quadruplets, and if they've got a double bass drum, you can play a beat that sounds like a double bass drum. They're a complete cheat, but they make it sound much better than you are. And I'd just love to just put a few of them on with somebody who's there, and just say, and then hand them the drumsticks back. Hopefully, I would like to be better than them. There's a couple of there's quite a few sound checks when you go. I remember one time, if I can tell you a story, but the short answer for that is, I know for a million % I could drum to every song by the Misfits. I know them off by heart, inside out. If I was going to drum to Slayer, I would have problems because their double bass drum is that fast. There's no way I could replicate that. I could do it, but I couldn't do it. But then again, I could do the double bass drums for Metallica, because Lars Ulrich these days doesn't seem to like to use his double bass drums. Maybe his left leg's broken, but never mind. So the story was, there was me, and we were in a band. It was a heavy metal band in Newcastle, and we went for a sound check, and we were top of the bill actually, and there was a band supporting us called The Fiend. There's a punk band. They're still going actually, from Newcastle, and they had a drummer. The singer said to us, we've got a new drummer. He's called Joe, and he's 14. His dad's bringing him here, and he's brilliant. And we thought, I bet he's a right load of rubbish. We weren't great, but we were all right, because me and Wolfie were there, and Wolfie can drum as well, even though he was playing the bass and singing in the band I was in drumming for. So he said, this lad come in, this Joe, he set his kit up, and they were doing the sound check. So his drum kit was like a mismatch. His double bass drums weren't the same size, and every drum was a different drum. It was like blue and a red and all that. So me and Wolfie looked at each other with a bit of snobbery and said, this is going to be a right laugh. This kid's going to show himself up to play to a hardcore punk band. I don't think it's going to be on the cards. Especially with the double bass drum, was quite new at the time to us anyway. This is going to be about 87, and he set it up and he started playing it, and he was one of the best drummers I've ever seen in my life. His double bass drum was the fastest that I'd seen personally in real life, and I couldn't believe it. So then they said to me, would you like to do a sound check as well? I said, yeah, all right. Are you okay? And I thought, well, I'm not going to show myself up. Yeah. So that's a great question. And the question would be the Misfits. I would drum the Misfits. But really, if any band that I could drum to, and I always have this every time I go to a gig, because I go to a lot of gigs, if one of them was going to say, is any drummers in the house? I'd say me, and I'll get up and I'll drum to summit, and hopefully be able to pull it off. That's another thing. There's nothing worse when you get on the drum and you just think to yourself, before you hit that first drum beat, when you come in and the first song of the night, and you think, I'm just going to mess this up. And the drum beat that I used to have to put in from one of the bands I was in when we used to play live was having to be a really fast drum roll. And that was the first time I would play the drums, and I thought to myself, if I get this drum roll wrong and I'll drop a drumstick, that's me a laughing stock for the rest of the concert. But never mind, it never happened, and I hope it never will. So thanks very much, Keith from Euphoria Pictures. Gilly rocks the metal. Gilly, great to have you asking a question, and she's got a brilliant channel, and I'll leave a link down below. A good friend on here. Wow, John, man of many talents. Well, I don't know about talents, but I've always loved the drums, and she says love the drumming. Well, thanks very much. It's one of my, you could say it's like a big passion of mine, and I do practice on the drums quite a bit when I can. My question is, who is your inspiration with your music? I do write and record my own music, and I've got at the moment 32 albums worth of stuff. Now you might think, wow, that's great, why haven't you released anything? Because it's not, some of it's more like demos and unfinished songs and songs that need a little bit work on, but they're more like ideas. Let's just say ideas, although there's quite a lot of finished stuff in there. I think I've got enough for about, if you put all my finished stuff onto one album, you probably get enough for about 5 albums, and the rest of them are all ideas. But sometimes you put an album on, an old album. I'm listening to one in the car from 2011 called MMIX. MMIXI. Don't ask. And there was a song in there. It was a really good song. I thought, I can't remember even doing this. And I thought, I really like this song. And mainly it's just for songs, it's just for music that I like. But my inspiration, who is your inspiration with your music? I would have to say, if you're talking about bands, I would have to say, like bands like Misfits, like Dickies, Slayer. There's a load of things. If I'm listening to a certain band at the moment, say if I'm listening to the Pixies, the album of that year it'll be sort of like Pixies-ish, or there might be some Kraftwerk stuff. I like Kraftwerk, so there might be some electronic stuff in it. It just depends what I'm listening to at the time. And usually when I go back to an album, say from 2011, when I was listening to it, I thought I can see myself. I was probably listening to a lot of Ministry, who are like industrial metal. So things like that. But I would have to say, if it's an inspiration, it was with my music, drumming wise, it would be Charlie Benante, who's the drummer from Anthrax, who's the first drummer I saw, who was like an amazing drummer live in the flesh with the double bass drums. And I thought, I have got to start to learn double bass drums, and that was my goal. I can do it fast enough, but not as fast as I would like to do it. But sometimes it can get stupidly fast, these double bass drums. But that's a short answer to say that Charlie Benanti would be for me drums, although Dave Lombardo is a better drummer, I think, from Slayer. And inspiration-wise, I would say bands like the Misfits. I would say Glenn Danzig, although he's a better singer. Although he's a great songwriter as well. So Glenn Danzig, I would have to say, and Gilly loves Glenn Danzig as well. So yeah, I would say probably Glenn Danzig. If I had to put one person down, Jerry Oney, the bass player of the Misfits, is a great bloke as well. So Misfits have got to be in there. But I also take lots of things. If I like Weezer, a lot of my songs sound a bit like Weezer because I play some stuff like Weezer, and then there's some stuff like there's some comedy stuff as well. I've got some comedy songs which you've got to. They are quite good actually. Some of the comedy ones are better than me real ones. There's also I've got a hardcore punk band section with offshoot band myself called the Bailiffs. Well, I live in Whitley Bay, so bailiffs taking people, and it's actually they're quite good. And I've got that with another singer. I don't sing on my music at all because I can't. I wish I could. I wish I could sing like Glenn Danzig. But anyway, so yes, Glenn Danzig. I'm going to say Glenn Danzig because I think I've done more off the back of Glenn Danzig than anyone else. I've copied quite a lot of his stuff. Well, I've been influenced by quite a bit of stuff. That's a great question, actually, Gilly. Thanks very much for that. My good friend Jordan from Movie Worm is next. And he says, great channel. Obviously, everybody probably knows Jordan, and the slim chance that you don't. I'll leave a link down below. Very watchable channel. I've watched his channel for a long time. Hey, John, my question is, do you have any guilty movie pleasures? I do. Ones that people hate, but you get a kick out of. Cheers. Take care. Class on the drums, by the way. Thanks very much, Jordan. Yes, I do have. I have a lot of guilty pleasures. Some ones that my wife says, what on earth are you watching this for? And I would say, because I really like it. The picture's getting a little bit fuzzy because the stuff outside it's getting very dark. It's always dark, isn't it? Of course, yesterday was the best day of the year, best day recently, and I was at work, wasn't I? But no, man. So guilty movie pleasures. I've got to say that I'm a big fan of Melissa Joan Hart, who is Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I do like to see her stuff. Now, what she does these days is she usually puts out every year. She puts out a Christmas film, and I do actively seek out her Christmas films to watch at Christmas time. Usually every month I'll find some, and if I haven't found the one that she's done this year, probably won't release one this year, I will go and find one from another year. And they're quite cheesy, they're not laughable, but I don't know what it is, I just really like her as a person. I think she's a great mother. She's got a great she just how can I put it? I do think she's a great person actually. She's not sometimes you can get these starlets who are a bit of a scumbag in real life, but I find that she's quite genuine, and I do like all the stuff she puts on Instagram, and I do like the fact that she's trying to she always tries to progress her career a bit with doing other movies, she tries to produce and all that. So really, I would have to say Christmas films from Melissa Joan Hart, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Wow, who would have thought it, eh? But thanks very much for that, Jordan. That's a great question. Next one is from Lisa Loves. Now, Lisa Loves has got a great channel as well. I always check her stuff out. I do need to check out more of her stuff as well, but she comments on my stuff quite a lot, and that's great. So thanks very much for that, Lisa. And her question is, some awesome drumming there. Thanks very much. Now, that song there, what was it again? Author. It's one of the kind of the middle road songs. I do prefer, even though most of my songs aren't fast, I do like to put some thrash songs in there, and I do love to put double bass drums in when I can. I talk about double bass drums quite a bit. But the whole, how to put it, the drums on Author they just worked quite well. Even though I'm drumming along to the original drumming track on Author with my drum track there, it worked out really well, and it's a one that a lot of people who like music like certain songs of my stuff, and that Authors are one that always gets a good response. Some songs on the albums sound to me pretty good. That's not being big-headed or anything, it's just that you kind of listen to it and you go, oh, that really worked. It really, you write a song and it kind of works as a song. Some songs you put in there, there's some songs I've got in there and I listen to them and I go, what was I thinking of that song? It's really poor. It's just nothing. So there's some songs in Mondo Chalavek that I don't like. But anyway, getting back to what Lisa said. Love the sound of the track so far. Thanks very much. Now, there's a thing here that recently I've been trying to make up some CDs of Mondo Chalavek. I've got everything on my computer but nothing on the discs. I used to have loads on discs. Of course, when I went to put them on discs, this PC won't burn the whole thing. It stops at 70%. I don't know if it's something where I can update it or it's just given it a ghost. So I've got an old computer which will burn them all, but it takes forever to set this computer up. But I do plan to record to have all this stuff on how can I put it, on disc. But if anybody wants a song of, say if I'm playing something like, say, Author for instance, and anybody wants that song, all I've got to do is just drop me a link, or just drop me a thing on this. Say Lisa wanted to have that song, just drop me a link, or just tell me, and I will get once put over to you on email, so you can own the song and have it. That's anyway. So there you go. So Lisa, if you want the song, you can have it. That's the short thing of that. I've always wanted to learn the drums, but it's one of those things that's a big investment if you're going to be terrible at it. That's a good point. I play keyboards and guitar a bit, but I'm mostly better at wind instruments like flutes and tin whistles. Wow. There's a few things I've tried, and it's funny because what I'll say about drumming is you've got to be able to do things a bit like when you pat yourself on the head and you stroke your chest, you rub your chest at the same time. So now you broke my toe on the bed there, and it's a bit of an art, a bit like juggling. Now wind instruments like flutes and tin whistles, they are very much like that as well, and they're quite. I did try to play the banjo once, even though I've recorded a couple of songs on the banjo, and it was too hard, really too hard for me. I just couldn't get my head around it. And the wind instruments aren't easy. So if you, Lisa, if you can do a wind instrument and they aren't easy, you can, I think you can navigate to the drums. My question for you is, are there any modern bands that impress you? Good question. Us rock fans tend to be stuck in our own little era, very good point, of when music was good. And I know at least I have this conversation a million times, well, not a million times a day, but with people that I work with that do like music. I'm always talking about this point. Give us some decent modern music recommendations if you can think of any. There's a couple of bands. There's a band that I've probably talked about very recently. I've just bought their latest album called the Lemon Twigs. Now they're a young band. I used to be actively, even though I love punk bands, I love stuff from the 70s. I always go back and listen to them. I always listen to Sex Pistols, Public Image, Crass, Buzzcocks, all that type of thing. Damned. But you want to I was always actively seeking the next thing. Now back in the day, you could seek the next thing when the Damned and all them sort of progressed into not really being the number one music. Then you had all the keyboard stuff coming in. You had all Kraftwerk. I know they're from a long time before. We had Depeche Mode, synthesizer bands. I went through all that. Then it went a bit like New Romantic, and then you went a bit sort of, I would say, like in the 80s, you had sort of like the second wave of punk in the early 90s, and there was always something new around the corner. But these days, there's just nothing new, especially in the charts. But basically, if you think about it, the charts, forget the charts, because it's hopeless. It's just, I know you might think, well, you're just an old person saying that, back in the day it was much better than I was. But if you think about it, when I used to watch Top of the Pops in the 70s, you could have, in 1 week, you could have a punk band in there. You could have a metal band in there, like you know, you'd say you could have like the Exploited in, you could have Motorhead in, you could have Kraftwerk in, you could have Depeche Mode in, you could have a comedy band like, say, Shut Up Your Face could be number one, but you had a stupid record in there. You had some boy band, but they weren't really boy bands. You would have some like, you could have like things like Nolan's could be in there, and you could have, I don't think my boy, like the Osmonds and that type of thing, or Bay City Rollers. But then you had all these different genres. You had ska, you had madness, you had all this different thing going on, and in 1 week. These days you've got the same. If you go to the charts now, you'd have the same song in the charts in the whole top 500. I find it really pointless. But I actively still try and seek out bands. This is why I spend a lot of time on YouTube looking for bands that are like a bit under the radar, but I have got the chance of seeing, and I have went and saw these bands, like a band, the Lemon Twigs. They are, I'll leave links down to these bands down below. The Lemon Twigs are a band that you can actually go and see, and they're really talented young kids, and they do this sort of music that's a bit like 70s rock, but it's got this sort of air of like I can't describe what it is. It's like something from like a show. It's like, imagine it's like Disney. It sounds mad, but you've got to see these people that believe how good they are and how talented they are. Another band called Protomartyr that I saw them by accident because I went to see a band that was supporting a band, and they didn't turn up the band that was supporting them. The band that was supporting was a band called Sauna Youth. Now they are really good, although I'd love to go and see them. I haven't seen them, but Protomartyr, I started buying all their albums. They're a bit like The Fall. Love The Fall, but they are like a modern day of you can see they're heavily influenced by The Fall. I don't mind that. I don't mind if some of the songs you think that's a blatant Fall rip-off. It doesn't matter as long as the music's good. Now The Fall, so I'm going to say, sorry, Protomartyr, the Lemon Twigs. I'm also going to say there's a band, The Regrets. Now they are sort of like a pop punk band, and they're just young girls, but they're absolutely brilliant. I've got the first album. I went to go and see them, but I couldn't see them because they didn't tour. The tour went a bit wrong, so they went off, and I went to see somebody else. There's a pop band. There's other band called. So actually, very quickly, I've just looked on my phone here just to see some bands that I've been to see, and I'm going to go off a few ones that I really recommend you see. And these are actually bands that are playing now. They're live. You can go and see them. Well, when we'll get back to normality. And there's one from America called L.A Witch, and if, like I say, I would try and put. I'm probably gonna have to put loads of links down in this video, but Lisa, if you want to look at some videos, just check these ones out. I'm gonna recommend these ones. Mogwai, seeing those are the noisiest thing I've ever heard in my life. L.A Witch, Brix, and the Extricated, which is basically The Fall with one extra member, and obviously the singer Mark A. Smith, who's now died. He's not in them anymore, obviously. It's Brix and the Extricated is like The Fall. It's all members of The Fall. Obviously, Brix Smith is the ex-wife of Mark A. Smith. Absolutely brilliant. Courtney Barnett, excellent. A bit like a sort of plays a bit like Nirvana stuff. The Struts, those are the band that I went to see that are really absolutely amazing. The Lemon Twigs and the Detroit Cobras, they are an amazing band. So that's the ones I recommend to you, Lisa, and that's a great question actually. These questions are really good. I don't know what I was expecting to get, but I'm getting stuff that's really a lot different to my expectations, but really enjoying this. But thanks very much for that. And getting back to your thing about drumming, what I'll say to you is you can get a drum kit, an electronic drum kit. You plug your headphones in and you can hear what's happening in an electronic drum kit. You don't have to annoy the neighbours. I don't annoy my neighbours, but I would do if I was playing on my proper drum kit, which I don't play on. So, and I can record and do everything I want with them. You can buy a drum kit which is like set up like mine. Mine was £2,000, but I knew I really wanted it, and that's why I did sell some of me discs at the time. You know, some of the ones I knew I'd get a lot of money for. Unfortunately, but I had to make sure I had the £2,000 to pay for it. So I would imagine what I would say is you would have to buy a cheap drum kit, and you probably get one for maybe £100 odd, £200. Try it out. If you found you couldn't do it, if you keep everything with it and you keep everything good, sell it on eBay and you will probably get more or less most of your money back. But sell it soon. If you know that you haven't got it in you after, say, maybe 6 months and you can't do it, that's no slight. If you, I've picked many things up and thought, I'm going to do this. Mouth organ, can't do it, got to put it to one side. Or you just go insane trying to do it. So you'll certainly learn on a drum kit if you can't do it, and you can always sell it. Don't buy a big expensive one. But electronic drum kits always keep the money. Acoustic drum kits don't. Plus they're so noisy you can't play them in anywhere, and you upset all the neighbours. And so try it, why not? But thanks very much for that question. It was a brilliant question.
So this is the end of part 22.
Had a little bit of a video bomb there from the missus. How dare she? Yes, basically what she said, it is the end of part 2. I'm going to now end this video here, or else it'll be about 5 years long. I think if I put all the questions into one video, it would have literally been 2 hours long, so we can't have that. Anyway, so I'll leave it there and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.